Welcome back to Less Than Geek. My name is Travis.
And I'm Peyton.
And today we'll be continuing our regional preparation videos, and we are going to be talking about an oldie but a goodie, the Falcon. So our reasoning here is on this exact build for the Falcon is sort of an evolution over the last couple of waves to react to the meta and what else is going on out there. So to go over quickly what we have here, we've actually got Chewbacca instead of Han here. So we've got what we like to call a chunky Chewie instead of a fat Han, with the engine upgrade, the title, Predator, Gunner, and C-3PO should be here today, but he had other obligations. He's like floating around somewhere. Just pretend C-3PO is hanging out in here.
He's a fancy fellow.
Yeah, he ran away somewhere. All right, and then we've got Cornhorn and the E-Wing over here with Veteran Instincts, Fire Control System, and R2-D2. So the Falcon obviously has been around since Wave 2. Saw a bit of play. People were still trying to kind of figure out which one they liked best. I like Chewie because of this and Han because of that. Now, when Wave 4 happened, the Phantom basically took over the meta. And around that time, you got C-3PO and Predator, some good key tools for the Falcon to use, and it was the best answer for the Phantom. Then you get a list like Paul Heavers of One Worlds, where he was using just like a mini swarm of Z95s as filler with Han. Han having the high pilot skill to be a good matchup against the Phantoms. He basically single-handedly kept Echo out of the meta, right? So you almost had to go that way with it. The Z95s were still somewhat useful because the Phantom usually came with a mini swarm back then, so they could kind of go toe-to-toe with the your mini swarm against their mini swarm. Z's versus ties, yeah. And if you could kill off all their ties in time, maybe the Falcon 101 could take out the Phantom or whatever.
Or the match with timeout.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of why that became popular. So many people started playing the Falcon. There were more Falcons than the actual Phantoms. That's where he switched in instead of the Gunner that everybody had been using as the second crew to go along with the ubiquitous C-3PO. That's where Paul Heaver for Worlds used the R2-D2 in there. That was a move to try to counter the mirror match. If you got it down to just one Falcon slugging another Falcon and one had R2-D2 and one didn't, he would slowly win, which is exactly what happened in the semifinals. But now we're back to basically needing a Gunner in there because of all the auto thrusters, and ships are so evasive now with all the interceptors and IGD-8s flying around. Another thing people would try is maybe like Han with Veteran Instincts, shoot the Phantoms before they could recloak. But now it's not so much just about the Phantom anymore. It's about those other ships. Another thing is, so the Z95s have become a lot less effective because all those builds, all those ships, it's hard for them to get shots. And even if they do get pot shots on some of those ships, if it's range 3 against auto thrusters or whatever,
who cares?
It basically does nothing with a 2-die attack. Yeah, so even in Wave 5, they were still pretty useful when one of the most dominant builds was the Decimator paired with the Phantom, because the Z's charging right at the Decimator, as long as it couldn't engine boost out of their arc, they could do a pretty good amount of damage to it pretty quickly. And you'll still see a fair amount of Decimators with, say, Soontir instead of a Phantom, but there's just so many more builds that don't have something like that now that the IGD-8s are a thing, or pure interceptor builds. So that's why it's kind of nice to get Corrin in here. You just feel like he's capable of helping out and doing something. But in order to do that, you need about an extra 6 points or so to even get this build of him. And this is cheaper than doing something where you have like push a limit on him and his own engine upgrade and all that. But even just to do this, you basically have to switch Chewie in for Han to save some points and use a generic Gunner instead of, say, Luke to try to have like maximum accuracy. Another thing, it doesn't hurt you as much having the lower pilot skill with Chewie now that the Phantom will probably not be that popular. You do still have the engine upgrade, so now that you know kind of where the Phantom's going, you can maybe arc dodge them. And it still helps you against very low pilot skill swarms. You don't, just like a Decimator, you don't want your Falcon sitting in front of like 3 B-Wings. You can still dodge them. So you might not be dodging all the stuff that Han would, but I think you get enough. And there's a lot of stuff that also hands out automatic crits now that's popular, like Mangler cannons on IG-88s. So it's kind of nice to have Chewie there because, Han could fall apart in a hurry once those first shields are down. He gets like a pilot skill 0 or, cancel his ability and cancel Predator, the injured pilot. Things go downhill real quick. So, this is jumping right into the 2-ship meta, but I don't know. I feel like you get a lot more out of it than having the Z's in there. People have tried playing, obviously, Corrin and a Falcon together for a while, and they did it back in Wave 4.
Yeah.
But back then, I feel like this would hamstring you a little more. Like you wanted Han because people still occasionally did like Echo or something.
I feel like this kind of reminds me of the Decimator Sooner combo, where one helps you with the part of the matchup you're not, lacking in with the other ship. They basically make up for their own downsides. Because Corrin's going to help you against those beefier ships.
Right.
He's going to put a Harding into IG-88s. He's going to help you fight the mirror match. He's going to do a lot of damage to a Han.
Right.
Just because of the double tapping ability.
Yeah, nothing here is like earth-shattering, revolutionary. Oh my God, you put Corrin Horn with a Falcon. People have played stuff like this, but it's just an illustration of how, I think you get a staple in the meta like the Falcon that's been around a while, and how each wave kind of shifts the exact build that you use, and it influences it, kind of forces your hand by what you're likely to run across. So going into some of the matchups, you touched on a little bit already about possibly a mirror match.
Yeah.
If you're playing against again low pilot skill stuff, B-wing, swarm, that kind of thing, it's nice that we still have the engine upgrade on Chewbacca here, because that's one of the things, especially when you drop down in the pilot skill, you might think you can get rid of that and get some extra points, some wiggle room to do some different stuff with Corrin. You could potentially give him push to limit instead of veteran instincts and bump that back up to Luke instead of a generic gunner.
Yeah.
But the first time that your Falcon is sitting in front of 2 or 3 B-wings, you're going to be regretting it. So, I think that's still a necessary thing. And also, we've mentioned before in one of our previous videos about the new decloaking rules of the Phantom. So now, if the Phantom decloaks at the beginning of the activation phase, you can usually know where it's going now. But if you can't do anything to react to it, it doesn't do you any good to know that. So you still need to be able to boost, to deal with them too if one of those still shows up, which they will. Okay, so playing against, say, the Decimator and Soontir. That's going to be a very similar squad to this, kind of.
Yeah, but you're winning the pilot skill war already. And I kind of like Chewbacca a little better than the Decimator. It's, obviously, it's not as tanky. But with C-3PO, it almost becomes that way.
I think it's more tanky with him, yeah. And plus the other evade, but being crit immune, that right there might make it more so,
Yeah, and it's even going to get even better when Vader comes in his own little ride.
Yeah, when the TIE Advanced Vader shows up. And even now, if you've got some Vader Decimators floating around because of interceptors, granted, he's still pretty good at trying to burst down Corrin. You need to watch out for that.
Yep.
But, it's pretty much useless to use him against Chewie, so that's nice. And again, all the Mangler cannons and stuff floating around. Corrin's got the pilot skill edge on Soontir, and he's able to potentially blast, 6 or 8 damage or whatever into the side of the Decimator in one turn. So you're in pretty good shape here with that matchup, I think. If you're playing against straight interceptors, you still have that pilot advantage with Corrin against Soontir. Basically, the high pilot skill of Corrin is here just to kind of keep them honest, those types of builds,
Yeah.
You've at least got the Gunner Predator combo.
It might not help that much, but
something. Auto thrusters, and they still get the automatic evade on both attacks with the Gunner, but it gives you a chance. You lose a little bit of accuracy not having Han's ability in there, but not as much as you would think.
Not with if you're also running the Predator, then it kind of makes up for it. And
it's definitely worth having. But
and you're stripping tokens.
It's not
hopefully.
Yeah, it's his accuracy's helpful. It's noticeable, but it's not worth playing Z95s basically. Yeah. And I guess the last real match to cover would be the IG-88s. So that's probably one of the hardest matchups for this.
Well, luckily, Chewbacca kind of ignores the whole Mangler cannon.
Yeah.
So the idea that, the biggest problem, obviously, between Chewbacca and Han against IG-8 specifically is the pilot skill.
Yeah.
Those IG-8s are going to be able to keep him in arc, so they will probably whittle him down before the match ends.
Yeah.
The idea is you have to kill one. So you just basically have to focus. You say, I'm going to send Corrin at this guy specifically and keep him on him the whole game. And then I think you have a good chance.
Yeah, the pilot skill hurts you there. That's one matchup where the engine upgrade is almost useless. If you had Han, it would be helpful. So you ignore all the crits from the manual cam, but you probably get shot more anyway, so it's kind of a wash. But yeah, Corrin is very important in any matchup with IGs. You try to leverage him and get that one turn where you get that high accuracy shot, range one, whatever, and you just unload on them. And like you said, you got to focus on one, and it's capable of doing that. And as soon as you kill one, life becomes much easier against those things.
And again, the gunner is going to help at least strip some tokens off the IG-8 so that Corrin can go in.
Yeah, for that. Yeah, the second shot should be good to go.
Yep.
But, so that'll wrap up our video covering this squad. We'll have some more coming in the near future here before regionals. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.